All right. So thank you guys for joining on. Those of you in Zoom, I appreciate you being here and being on time. Those of you in the Facebook group, again, any questions you guys have during this presentation, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I think this is going to be a very, very important video for those of you who are either not marketing or looking to start marketing for your firm. This will hopefully clear up a lot of different concepts and will make your choice easier when it comes to choosing an acquisition channel or several acquisition channels for your firm. All right. So the goal of this session is, depending on where you are at with your firm's journey, you need to select the appropriate marketing channels. And again, this presentation is going to help you decide that. So I want to start by saying there is no magic system. I know that there are a lot of marketing companies out there. We're a marketing company that promise you crazy results or promise you this new shiny system that is going to change everything for you. And there really is no magic system. There is just the traffic that you can get and the methods that you use to convert that traffic to leads. There's always going to be a trade-off being made between cost, and cost can either be dollars or effort, and quality. All right. And I'm going to talk more about that dynamic in a bit here, because it's going to really help you understand how the channels work and what you're giving up when you select a channel. All right. So this is something I go through for our clients. They've probably seen this in my sales presentation, because I think it's really important to understand these two dynamics. So there's something called interruption-based marketing, and then there's meeting a demand. Now, these are the only two types of digital marketing out there. Every single channel falls under these two categories. Now, interruption-based marketing is your typical Facebook dynamic, where you're looking at Facebook for family and friends, and something may pique your interest and get you to actually stop and watch or click and go to a website. But again, the original intent of you going to Facebook was not to find an attorney, or was not to find a divorce attorney. You were there to look and be entertained. So the ad was interrupting you, or the post was interrupting you. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but the initial reason for being there was not to find an attorney. And so these leads tend to lack intent. Now, meeting a demand marketing is only done on Google. Google is the only platform out there where the person is coming to you, raising their hand. And so as a result, these leads have very high intent. Again, when someone has a problem, they're going to Google. They're looking for a divorce attorney or a probate attorney or whatever type of attorney they're looking for. They're going to Google to find that type of attorney. So I like to compare it to having a leak in your house. Now, this is obviously an urgent situation, which in some cases, Google will work very well for those types of urgency type cases, like probate, somebody died, I need to handle this, I need to handle it soon. But again, when you have a leak in your house and you need to get a plumber, the first thing you do is you Google plumber near me. And so that dynamic is what you get on Google. Now, interruption-based marketing is like a billboard. Now, there's nothing wrong with billboards. You just have to understand what their purpose is. They're there to build a brand. They're there to build awareness. They're not necessarily going to get you a direct response that most people want. And it is an interruption. You're driving when you're seeing billboards, so you don't have a whole lot of time to act when a billboard is, going by your car at 50 miles an hour. So those are the two types of digital marketing, and those are very important because we're going to overlay those over the marketing funnel itself. So this is the marketing funnel, not to be confused with the sales funnel. I talk about the sales funnel a lot, but the marketing funnel has three different phases. There is the awareness stage. In this stage, people are not necessarily aware that they have a problem yet, and they're starting to get aware. And this is also where you're letting them know that they have a problem. The middle of the funnel is the consideration phase. And so this is where they're starting to consider all of their options for solving this problem. And then the bottom of the funnel is the purchase phase. So at this point, they've considered a bunch of different providers or attorneys to solve their problem, and now they're going to make their decision and actually buy. And so this phase is one of the best phases to target, because they're already in market, they're already ready to solve their problem, they're already ready to buy. And so it's a nice way to ease into a marketing campaign. And I'm going to talk more about what types of channels are bottom of funnel, mid funnel, and top of funnel. So there's some important things in dynamics to understand within this funnel. And first is the lead temperature dynamic. So at the top of the funnel, you're going to hear me say top of funnel a lot. The leads are usually a lot colder. Now, they may be opting into something, but they're not ready to do business with you. They're just learning. They're getting introduced to the idea of this. And so I like to compare this to like someone downloading your ebook. Now, they're not necessarily ready to hire you, but they're willing to read a little bit about what you have to say, but they're still relatively a cold lead. The temperature is not hot yet. Now, as you move down the funnel, in the middle of the funnel, the leads are a little warmer. These are people who have maybe downloaded your ebook and now they're starting to see testimonials of yours. And they're like, oh, these people are pretty good. Maybe I should hire them. But again, they're warm leads. They're not hot leads. And then there's bottom of the funnel leads. And these leads are hot. They're ready to go. They're ready to buy. And these are the type of leads that you can just send straight to a consultation call to action. So get to a landing page, ask for their information, book them on a consult. And so the lead temperature is very important here to understand. Now, on the other side of this is your offer temperature. So when you're marketing to the top of the funnel, these are people who have no clue who you are. There's no brand loyalty. They've never even heard of you. And so in some cases, your offer has to be a lot hotter to get their attention. If you just say, hey, book a consultation to people who don't know you, they're going to be like, who the heck are these people? And why are they on my feed? But if you say, hey, get a free book or get a free something or another, get a free lunch, come to our free seminar, those are pretty hot offers that are giving them something, they're providing value, and you can warm up this audience that is otherwise cold. Now, as you move down the funnel, your offer does not have to be as hot. Again, middle of funnel, you can start asking for consultations with testimonial videos. Bottom of funnel, which is the hottest lead temperature, you can have a pretty cold offer. And by that, I mean, you can just ask them to book a consultation. They're not even getting anything other than a consultation. In some cases, people charge. But again, the offer itself is not super hot. It's not like a $99 will or, $100 off your consultation, something like that. So again, those two dynamics are very important to understand. Now, like I said in the beginning, there's always a trade-off happening in marketing. A lot of people think that there's this holy grail system out there where you can pay for $1 leads and you're going to close 100% of them and you're going to live happily ever after. It just doesn't work that way. We've been in marketing for a long, long time, and this trade-off always happens. And so there is a trade-off between effort and cost. But again, usually it's going to cost you something. So at the top of the funnel, you may get cheap leads, but you're going to have to nurture these leads a lot more. So I'm going to give you two examples of cheap leads, but them costing you more money in the long run somehow, some way. So let's just say that you're offering an ebook, right? This is going to be a cheap lead. Let's say you pay $10 for somebody to download your ebook. Hopefully they read it. Now that lead is in your system and you're going to have to nurture that lead for an extended period of time. So you're going to have to send them emails. You're going to have to send them text messages. Maybe you call them and ask them, hey, did you read my ebook? But you have to work the lead and you have to work it for quite some time. Now, let's use another example of a hot offer on a top of funnel audience. Remember, the audience is cold, but we're going to use a hot offer to warm them up very, very quickly. So let's use an estate planning example. Let's say that you're targeting a cold audience and you want to get them to buy something from you. You want to turn them into a customer very, very soon. What you can do is offer them a really, really cheap, simple will. So $49 simple will. Now, because the audience is cold, but you have such a hot offer, you may get a lot of people to bite on that offer because it's such a good offer. But again, you're trading off something here. You're now trading the cost of your services to get cheaper leads. So there's always going to be a trade-off. If you give away a really, really good offer, or you say, hey, free divorces, come by, you're going to get tons of leads. You're going to deal with a lot of problems on the back end because now you have to fulfill on those promises. So it's going to cost you either within the business, from a scalability or like an operations cost standpoint, or it's going to cost you from a nurturing standpoint where you have to send them emails, text messages, call them, all that fun stuff. So again, super important to understand that trade-off at the top of the funnel. Now, at the bottom of the funnel, the leads are typically going to be more expensive. Whether you're on Google or whether you're on Facebook, the leads are going to be more expensive. But again, these people are raising their hand on Google. They're coming to you with a problem and they're hoping you can solve it. And so you don't have to nurture them as much. They're going to book the consultation. They're going to get on your calendar. They're going to come in for their consult, and hopefully they're going to close in a relatively short period of time. But again, that's because they're bottom of funnel. Now you're paying a premium for these leads. So instead of paying for $10 book downloads on Facebook, you're now paying for $70 leads on Google, but you don't have to nurture them. You don't have to give them discounts. None of that stuff is applicable. So you're just trading your cost and quality. Just understand that. Now, in a perfect world, you're doing everything. But if you're choosing, it's important to really understand those dynamics. So when someone promises you, hey, I'm going to get you $5 leads, you got to ask yourself, well, what is involved in converting those $5 leads to customers? Is it going to be a ton of work? Is it going to compromise my prices? What is the trade-off? Because there will be a trade-off, I guarantee it. So now I want to overlay the digital channels for you so you can understand how these channels work. Now, again, these channels are typically broken into interruption-based and meeting a demand. Now, the interruption-based channels usually, not always, are usually at the top of the funnel, meaning you are interrupting people because they're a cold audience. You're trying to put your offer in front of them, or you're trying to get their attention, and you're trying to get a lead. And the usual channels for this are Facebook, YouTube, and Google Display. And Google Display is banners on all the websites. So if you go to CNN.com and you see a banner, that's a Google Display ad. Facebook is pretty straightforward. That's the platform we're streaming on now. And YouTube, when you're watching a video on YouTube, you can place ads in front of other videos in a variety of ways. But again, typically those channels are top of funnel. Now, that is not always the case. You can get Facebook to convert on a bottom of funnel basis, which is actually what we do, but you have to write a lot of ad copy. You have to test a lot of things. You have to make compelling arguments, and it takes a little bit more skill than just saying, hey, download our free ebook. Now, at the bottom of the funnel, Google ads, and specifically Google search ads, SEO, or local service ads, these are all bottom of funnel sources. And that is because when people have a problem, they go to Google and they're looking to solve that problem relatively quickly, which is why it falls in the bottom of funnel category. Now, the main network that Google does this on is search. So YouTube, display, all that stuff, that's all top of funnel. It's really important to understand that. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it's really important to know what you're getting into as far as the dynamic. Top of funnel leads may take a long time to close. Bottom of funnel leads close a whole lot faster. So again, Google search, SEO, local service ads, which I'm going to talk about here as we go through the different acquisition channels in just a few minutes. So just to shed some more context on top of funnel versus bottom of funnel, I want to show you our ad account. So this is our Google Ads account, and I'm going to explain 3 of the campaigns that I have running here or that I've run in the past. So the top one is called Display Roadmap. And what I was doing is I was doing a webinar on the display network, so banners, top of funnel, and I was asking attorneys like you to sign up to watch my roadmap. And this was costing me 51 cents per click. So every time someone arrived at my website, I paid 51 cents. Which is pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap to get a qualified person to my website. And you can see there that I had 300 clicks to the site. Now, if we go down one level to lawyer website, and there's a little magnifying glass there, that signifies that that is a search campaign. So that is the bottom of funnel campaign type in Google. And that's why it's called BOFU. So this campaign is called lawyer website. And what I was doing in this campaign is I was having attorneys like you who were looking to get a new website built, come to our website, fill out a landing page form, and get on a call with me. Now, if you look at the average CPC over there to the right, or the average cost per click, it is $21 per click to get someone to come to my website who's interested in getting a new website built. Now, that is literally a 50 times difference compared to my display. Why is it so much more expensive? Because this is a bottom of funnel lead where someone is raising their hand saying, I want you to build my website. And they're looking for this solution relatively soon. They want to get this done, which is why they're going to search. So you can see the cost difference in a website visitor coming from a display campaign, which is top of funnel, costs 51 cents. A website visitor coming from a search campaign who's looking to get their website redone now cost me $21. And this is just for the click. This is not the lead. The lead cost is like $300. So you could see the difference in the campaign types and the cost difference and what I'm trading. I'm trading a top of funnel lead for a bottom of funnel lead. I'm paying $20 for a top of funnel lead. I'm paying $300 for a bottom of funnel lead. Big, big difference. And the last example is that lawyer marketing all devices. So what this campaign is, and it's even more expensive, is this is an attorney who's looking for a marketing company. So they're looking to solve their marketing problem, hiring companies like ours. And you can see that that click costs $26. So if you go to Google right now and you Google attorney marketing company and you click somebody's ad, they're paying between $26 and $60 per click. It's pretty expensive, right? Maybe you'll think twice before clicking those ads if you're not serious, because it really hurts. But again, this is Google. Now I'm going to show you a Facebook example. These are our Facebook campaigns as well, and I'll run you through these really quick. So the top one is a webinar campaign, a webinar similar to the one I'm doing here. This is the top of funnel marketing source because you're learning something. Hopefully I'm providing value. And if you need help in the future, you'll consider us. Top of funnel, you may never need my help, but you're still learning something. So these leads cost $51 per lead. You can see on the right-hand side there where I put a box around it, $51 per lead for a top of funnel webinar campaign. Now the ad in the middle, the campaign type where it says new family law leads, those are $110 a lead. And these are people who are going to hopefully book on my calendar. Roughly 70% of those people will book on my calendar. So it cost me $110 versus $51 for someone to potentially get to my calendar, $51 for someone to sign up to a webinar like this, but you're going to get all of my emails in the future. You're going to get all of my webinar emails, and maybe I'll call you, maybe I won't. I'm not too pushy. And the last campaign there at the bottom is what's called a book funnel. So this is where somebody downloads the ebook version of this, or they get this physical one shipped to them. So they're actually getting something here. Again, this is a pretty hot offer. This is the book we wrote. I think it's pretty good because I'm the one who kind of wrote it. But again, I'm giving you something, and it's something physical. So it's a little more valuable. Now this book funnel is getting leads for $34 a lead, which is a third the cost of my bottom of funnel campaign. And these people, I also asked to book a meeting. So you can see the different campaign types here and the different costs and the different types of leads that we're getting and the trade-offs that are being made. Top of funnel, I may never talk to you. You may be in my list for years before you decide to book a meeting, but you're a cheaper lead. Bottom of funnel, you want to talk to me and you want to talk to me soon, but I'm paying a whole lot more to talk to you. So those are the dynamics you have to work with. I hope that makes sense. Now, what we're going to do here in the next few slides is we're going to do breakdowns of all of the top acquisition channels that you should be using or considering to use along your law firm journey. Again, you're not going to use all of them in one shot, but they're going to be there for you. And when you understand how they work, you can select them at the appropriate times. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down how the channel works. We're going to understand the cost associated with the channel, and we're going to understand the timeline to success. So how long does it take you to see ROI from that channel? All right. Now, before we dive into that, I want to give you a little more education because Google is a heavy hitter when it comes to these channels. And so Google's mission is to provide the best answer to a user's query. Now, what does that mean? When someone searches for a probate attorney, Google's mission is to serve the best probate attorneys in the area, not by your skill of law, but what they view as the best resource based on their website, their presence, all of that, is to serve the best attorneys in the area to that user. Because if Google keeps answering questions right, people are going to keep using Google. And their second mission is to make as much money as possible while still delivering the best answers. Google monetizes by showing you the best answers, which is how their ad platforms work. That is like 92% of their revenue is their ad platforms. So again, they have to give you good answers, otherwise people won't use Google. And then they monetize giving those answers by using ads. So super important to understand those dynamics because Google likes to take your money. So let's understand what your options are on Google. The top listings are called Google local service ads. Those are the ones with the little pictures up there where you can see Zoklin Law, Morgan & Morgan. Those are your local service ads. I'm going to break those down in detail. The next listing, which are right below that where it says probate attorney, responsive service, the big text ads, those are your traditional Google search ads. And those ads are very, very effective. And I'm going to talk about those too. Now, the next set of listings, and this doesn't always show up, but it does a lot of times, is the Google map. And so this is where your Google My Business comes into play, and this drives a significant amount of traffic for attorneys. So optimizing for this is very important. And then below that are the organic listings. So your actual website listing, like your homepage, your service pages, your blogs, so on and so forth. So that is how Google presents its answers to when someone is searching. So the first channel that we're going to talk about is Google Business Profile or Google My Business. And this honestly is a layup for everybody. You should definitely be doing this because it's free and it's going to get you traffic. So how does Google Business Profile work? This is based on organic search. So when someone is searching for a divorce attorney near them or a probate attorney near me or an estate planning attorney near me, all of those local based terms and the broad terms themselves, so just like divorce attorney, those are going to come up and trigger the Google Business Profile to show as long as that business profile is relevant to the user's query. It also takes into account distance. So where is your office or where is your service area? And the last thing it takes into account before it shows your profile as a valuable resource for information is prominence. So how does your appearance across the web look? Do you have links to your site? Do you have reviews? Do you respond to messages quickly on Google Business Profile? All of these things go into your prominence ranking. And so they take the relevance, they take the distance, and they take the prominence. And based on those three factors, they will show your business profile to people when they're searching in your area. So it's based on keyword searches. When someone types that in, it triggers Google's algorithms, and they run all of these different things in the background. And then half a second, they will show the best Google My Business profiles at the top of the page. And then if you click in there, you can see a bunch more. But that is how the ranking system works. So making sure that your business profile is filled out to the max capacity is very important, and making sure that it's relevant. So when you choose a category in there, don't just choose lawyer, choose estate planning lawyer, or choose divorce attorney or family attorney. You want to make it as relevant as possible, so when people are searching for you, they can find you. Now, again, the cost, like I mentioned, is free. So this is completely free to set up. You can do it on your own. I have webinars on this if you want to see them, where we walk through and actually fill out a profile. Now, the timeline to success for Google My Business profile to start getting new traction. If you already have a pretty established firm and you don't have this and you set this up, you're going to start getting traction pretty quick. But I would say 3 to 6 months before you start seeing like a noticeable difference. It could be sooner than that, depending on how prominent you are, how many reviews you have. There's a lot of factors, again, within those 3 calculations. But it's free and you're going to get leads from it. So definitely do it. And again, 3 to 6 months, you're going to start seeing results, and those results are going to snowball. So as you get more prominence, as you get more reviews, as you get more interactions, you're going to be served more and more and more. And it's this massive snowball effect, which is very, very useful, because over time, you're going to have leads coming in that you're not going to know what to do with. So the pros to Google My Business, or Google Business Profile, is it's very easy to set up. Again, you can knock this out in 30 minutes to an hour. It is free. The snowball effect, which I just described, and it improves your entire presence. So people take reviews very, very seriously. And if you have reviews on here, they're going to consider them before they hire you. The cons is it takes time to scale up. So again, 3 to 6 months, and you can't really throttle it up or down unless you're like religious about getting reviews. And even then, you can't control the amount of volume you get to reviews. There's no like direct correlation or calculation saying 1 review equals 10 visitors. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So you can't really project on it. But again, very, very effective. Now, I put these in order of cost. So if you're doing this, you want to go in this order of cost so far. And I'll mention things that cost more or less. And I'm going to give you the cost breakdowns of all these services. So Google Guaranteed, or LSAs, local service ads, is the next thing that I would do if I was an attorney, if you're not hiring a marketing company at this point. So how it works, this is Google's pay-per-lead program. So it still works off of the same phrases that we're talking about, and then it matches those phrases to your Google Guaranteed profile. So you in your profile will select, I am a family attorney and I want to focus on divorce and custody, and only those 2. It uses that designation to match you to users' queries that are looking for divorce attorneys or child custody attorneys. So it's using the same keyword algorithm system, but now it is monetizing. Google is now wanting money. So they're going to charge you per lead, which is nice. You're not getting charged per click. You're getting charged every time someone actually calls your firm and they're a qualified lead in your practice area. Now, I don't mean qualified in that they can hire you, that they're actually within the practice area that you are serving. So let's say, for instance, someone calls you and they are looking for a real estate attorney, because some people just don't read when they click these things. You can actually dispute that lead and say, hey, Google, I am a divorce attorney clearly shown on my profile, and someone called me for real estate law. Please refund me, and they will refund you. So that is how Google Local Service Ads works in a nutshell. Now, the cost for this, I would say minimum, depending on your practice area, but I'm talking mainly about estate and family law here. $500 a month is a minimum starting budget, and Google will actually spit out a minimum budget for you on a weekly basis. And usually you can get away with, starting around $500 a month. That is entry level. You can spend a whole lot more on Google Local Service Ads. We have clients spending, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month on these very easily. Now, the timeline to success is days. You're going to start getting leads very, very quickly. And you can see ROI within a month. There are clients of ours who actually close business within their first month off of these ads. So again, very, very effective, pretty low cost, very low maintenance. So a lot of great things. So let's just talk about the pros in a nice organized list. Number 1, they're easy to set up. Again, not a lot of setup here. All you need is your basic information about your firm, your license number, a headshot, a couple of things like that. Very easy. Approval process takes about 2 days. This is fairly hands-off. So once you get it going, you don't have to do a whole lot to it except for dispute leads and make sure you're getting reviews. Those are the 2 big things you have to do. It is pay per lead. So you're only paying when you get something, versus Google Ads, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. You pay per click, which is why it's called PPC. You can dispute these leads. Again, like I talked about, if they're out of your practice area, you can say, hey, Google, I want my money back. This person was not in my practice area. Please refund me, and they will. You're going to get more exposure on the top of Google. So let's say you have Google My Business profile set up and you have your LSA set up. You now have 2 listings at the top of the page, which is some of the most valuable real estate in the world. And you don't need a web developer or any technical experience to get this running. It's very, very easy to do. So again, super, super effective. Now, the cons to this is scaling is based on reviews and proximity. So you have to make sure that you're consistently getting reviews and that you're setting up your office locations in areas that are around this. So that's actually a scaling technique. The cons, again, are not too exact for certain practice areas. So let me give you an example of this. If you're an estate planning attorney and you select estate planning, they don't allow you to designate like whether you do probate or Medicaid planning or any of that. And so sometimes what will happen is at the top level, you can actually designate it, but at the top level, because you're an estate planning attorney, you will sometimes get probate calls. And a lot of times, these are people that you may not want. And so as a result, because you're an estate planning attorney, technically that's in Google's bucket system, you're going to get probate calls. So it's not too exact for certain practice areas. Just something to consider there. And it's also harder to control and pinpoint quality. So let's say you have a really good week this week. You don't really know how you had a good week because Google is taking the reins on this. So one of the things is that it's great. It's easy to do because you don't have to do much, but that's actually one of the problems as well, because you're giving Google all the power in deciding who to send to you. And you can't really control that too much. There's not a lot of levers to pull within LSAs. So that is how Google LSAs work. Again, if you guys have questions about that and you want to see it set up, I do have webinars. Leave a comment below and I'll send you those if you give me your email. So this next one is Google Ads. And so Google Ads is the biggest monetization for Google. And how this works is this is Google's pay-per-click program. So Google has many networks, but we're only going to discuss the search network. Remember, I talked about YouTube, I talked about display, but search is where you go to the Google homepage, you type in a search, and they spit out all those results that we've been talking about. And so that is the network of search. Now, this is where you bid on keywords and your ads will show based on your keyword selection. So you have a lot more control over what you're showing for. So you only want to show for the word trust attorney, that's all you're going to show for, or divorce attorney, that's all you're going to show for. And you're going to bid on that keyword and your ads are going to fall in one of the 6 spots, either at the top of the page or at the bottom of the page. Now, the cost for this is roughly $1,000 starting budget per month for ads. Now, that is what we recommend to our client as a starting budget. Again, the more the merrier, because you're going to get a larger sample size of leads. Now, there's also another cost associated with this, and that is paying an agency to do it. I highly recommend that you pay an agency to do it. I know that sounds self-serving, but the reality is Google Ads is a bit more complicated than most other platforms. And if you don't know what you're doing, remember Google's mission, their second objective is make as much money as possible. They're going to take your money. If you're not good at Google Ads, you will lose money. I guarantee it. Even people who think they're good at Google Ads do it wrong and they lose money. So really, really take your time to pick an agency that's good at Google Ads before you pay them. But again, agency fees for this are going to range between $500 and $2,000 plus. Now, why do I have the plus in there? Some agencies will charge you a percentage of your actual ad spend. So for example, if you're spending $100,000 a month, they will charge you 10% of your ad budget, which will be $10,000 a month. And the reason they do that is because as you scale up, their retainer scales with it because technically there's more work involved. So just something to understand there. So all in cost to start something like Google Ads, you're looking around $1,500 to $3,000 a month, depending on the agency that you work with. So those are the typical baseline costs. Now, the timeline to success is days. Again, you can see ROI in a month. So similar to local service ads, it's going to be a very quick turnaround time. But again, I want to put a disclaimer in there that sample sizes matter. So let's say that you get 5 leads and it's been a month. Was it successful or was it not successful? It's very hard to determine that in 5 leads because your sample sizes, your closing rates may not play out within a 5 lead sample size. So something to consider there. Now, some of the pros of Google Ads is it's very scalable. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you spend $1,000 this month and you're in a very populated area and you get 2-3 clients. If you want to spend $2,000 next month, it is very easy to scale up and spend that $2,000 and get 4 to 6 clients the following month, and so on and so forth. It is always dictated by how many people are in your area. So if you can advertise statewide, you could spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 profitably every single month and really scale up fast. So scalable. The next thing is predictable. So unlike a lot of other sources, Google search thrives on new people coming into the market. So there's always somebody that's about to go through a divorce that will go to Google, and new people are consistently coming in. And so as a result, it's very predictable. And there's actually numbers on this. There's something called the Google Keyword Planner that shows you how many leads you can generate per month consistently, which is very nice because as a business owner, you can now plan, okay, I need 20 leads per month next month and 40 leads a month after that. And if I want to hire an associate, I need an additional 30 leads. So you can do a lot of business planning based on the projection tools that Google will give you for free. You can have many locations. So let's say that you are licensed in multiple states and you're doing well in Florida and you're like, hey, I also want to run these ads in Georgia. Very easy to do, a couple clicks of a button, and now you have Georgia campaigns. You have a little bit more granularity as far as the targeting is concerned. So you can target income levels. So top 10%, top 20%, top 30% of income levels, which is very useful because it tends to bring in a higher caliber client, higher quality lead. And you can also target different demographics like males, females, parental status, things like that. And again, you can pinpoint quality. So unlike LSAs where it is, I don't want to say black box because that somewhat has a negative connotation, but it is ultimately a black box solution. Local service ads, Google is doing all of the heavy lifting. They're doing all the targeting. They're doing all that fun stuff. In Google Ads, you have more control over that targeting. And as a result, you can see where your best leads are coming from and you can pinpoint the quality and take advantage of that quality. So very powerful, but again, you have to be experienced to do that. Now, some of the cons are it's a more complex setup. So you do need experience, you do need landing pages, you do need tracking ability. So you have to be a little bit more technical to set up Google Ads. Again, you need experience. We've been doing this for around 10 years. We spent $50 million in ads. So we have a ton of experience. And the way to learn it is there's courses out there, but unfortunately you're going to make mistakes and that's how you learn. So if you want to run Google Ads yourself, just know it's going to be a painful process for the first few months, maybe even longer than that. But when you get that experience, it's priceless because then you're the master of your own fate. Performance can vary based on many factors. Now, what does that mean? So your keyword selection now matters. Your landing pages matter. Your tracking matters. Your management matters. So if you're not good in all of those areas, then your account might not be working and you might not know why. So is it my keywords? Is it my landing pages? Is it the tracking? Is it what is it that's going wrong? And so being able to diagnose that is very important. And you have to actively manage this. So you should look in on your campaigns every single day, and you should be managing them pretty closely, not making huge changes. But again, you need to be close to the wheel in this one to make sure that things don't go wrong. So this next one is SEO, or search engine optimization. Now, all of these so far have run on Google's networks. I'm going to talk about a few other platforms here soon, but these are all Google-based. They're all keyword-based, and they're all search bottom of funnel type marketing. Now, I selected that for a reason because you can make millions of dollars just on the channels I've talked about. We have firms who've made millions of dollars just on the channels, and they continue to make millions of dollars just running these channels. So you don't need tons of channels to make the money you want to make. There are some firms that all they run is Google and they're making more than 8 figures. So again, very, very scalable channels here, but I did it in order of logical taking the channel on because it's free, it's low cost, high intent. So this order matters. So how SEO works, this is Google's organic program. So similar to Google My Business, it's based on keywords, but it's built up over time and quality interactions on your website and relevance. So this is where your website comes into play. Google Business Profile, it takes into account your profile. This takes into account your website. So by putting things like blogs, location-specific pages, making sure your website structure is correct, making sure that people and Google can read your website correctly. Those are all of the things that go in SEO. Now, the cost can be from $300 to $10,000. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Why is there such a wide range? So $300 a month is going to get you like an entry-level program to a provider like Justia, where they're going to put up a very simple site for you, and they're going to use their big authority because they've been around forever to help link to your site and juice your site that way. Now, they're not doing a whole lot for you because it's somewhat of a cookie cutter process for them, but they are leveraging their big reputation, which helps. And we have client sites on Justia that do pretty well. So I'm not bashing them at all, but just know that they're not doing much for that $300 a month, but it is useful. Now, how can a program cost $10,000? Now, this is dictated by how much content they're producing, obviously their expertise, which kind of goes without saying, but you hope that they have expertise, but how much content they're producing, how much custom work they're doing, again, their level of expertise, all of those types of things would be what would dictate a $10,000 a month retainer. And honestly, that's not the worst cost in the world, because if you hired a really, really good SEO at your company, that's probably going to be their salary, if not more. Now, what should you be paying? I would say between $3,000 to $5,000 is a sweet spot for most marketing companies. And at this level, they're doing things like blogs, keyword pages, your website, they're maintaining it. They're doing linking, all of that stuff that should go into SEO. They're doing those things for that cost. And again, that's the typical cost. Now, the timeline to success for this is months to years. So, we start seeing results for our clients within the first 3 months, and then it really starts to pick up. 6 months to years is what you're after here. You're in it for the long haul if you're doing SEO. You're not needing leads today if you're doing SEO. If you need leads today, the 3 that I talked about before this are where you want to start. This is going to be long-term investment into your firm, but it is going to pay dividends in the long run, because your lead costs across all of your channels is going to come down significantly, because technically you're getting free traffic. Now, I say free with quotes because you technically are paying a service to do this, unless you're doing it yourself, in which case you're investing your time, which still is a cost to you. Now, the pros of SEO is leads will be free eventually. So over time, once you have a great reputation, you've been there for a while, you're going to get organic traffic. That's not going to cost you anything, and you're going to get leads. Now, the snowball effect also comes into play here, where once you start getting some interactions on your website and Google sees that you're getting interactions, they're going to reward you with more traffic, which then gets you more interactions, which it's just a snowball effect. It's a nice, flywheel approach where one thing feeds the next, which feeds this, and it really, really snowballs. And over time, you have so many leads, you don't even know what to do with them. The other thing too is you're getting targeted leads. So these are people coming from search. Again, we are bottom of funnel at this point. So they're targeted leads in your practice area looking for help right now. So very, very useful. Now, the cons are it takes time and patience. So again, if you need leads now and you need cash flow now, this is not what you want to start with. There are some areas that are more competitive than others. So if you're a personal injury attorney and you're in a really competitive city, it's going to be really hard to rank. You got to really be in it for the long haul and invest, a lot of time and money into SEO to start competing with the big boys. If you're in smaller towns where the practice areas are not as competitive as personal injury, it becomes a whole lot easier. It does require expertise. So again, this is not something I expect you to do yourself unless you've had your website up for 30 years and you have organic traffic as it is. Then it's maybe something you could throw up a website and help. But again, you can hurt yourself too. So be careful with that. And it needs active management and content production. So, so you need to actually produce quality content here that people want to read and that Google can read. So if Google can't read it, then they can't assess whether you're a quality source or not. So you have to have quality content, and it also has to be relevant to your practice area. So you have to know what you're talking about. So you can't just have, your niece who's 10 years old write this content for you, because it might not be legal depending on what she's saying. So again, it requires content production. Now, this next source is social media organic. And I would say that this is one of those sources out there that gets the most buzz as far as like, this is what you should be doing. And I'm trying not to interject my opinions into this. Maybe you are getting my opinions. I just want to give it to you straight. But social media organic has a lot of buzz around it. And once I talk you through it, you'll understand why maybe you shouldn't be prioritizing this as much as you think. So posting videos and content to your audience. The idea is that you build a relationship with them by entertaining or providing value. And when the time comes for them to hire an attorney, they choose you. Now, the cost associated with this is $300 to $1,000 for like a company to manage this. Kind of a wide range, but like those are the prices that I've seen before. And the timeline to success is it depends. And I'll explain why. So a lot of factors go into social media organic. Number one, is the content you're producing actually interesting? Now, unfortunately, you're not presenting about the most exciting topic. Law is exciting to you maybe, but to the end user, it's usually a painful period of time. So they may not want to hear about it unless they're doing research. And if you're providing valuable content, it could be very, very valuable. Now, the only thing to that is this is organic. So it is dependent on people actually interacting with your content to make Facebook's algorithm kick in and start serving this post to more of your audience. So you have to, number one, have an audience. The content has to be interesting and people have to engage with it. So it's a lot of factors that will be dependent on your success, which is why I have it depends. Now, if you don't produce interesting content and it's just your typical, very dry, very boring content, then you're probably not going to get a whole lot of interactions from it off of the platform itself. Now, right now, TikTok is very hot and people are very excited about it. And I'm seeing a lot of attorneys on there. Now, how TikTok is working right now is it's very, very similar to how Facebook started. When you post on TikTok, they are pushing your content out across all of your users, all of your followers, and even people who don't follow you. Because right now, TikTok is building your user base, and the more people who are getting interactions, the more exciting they are, and the more they'll post. So they're just building their company up. They are starting to monetize with ads. And once they fully monetize with ads, they will require you to start sponsoring your post if it's not exciting, because nobody wants to hear about, really boring stuff on TikTok. They want to be entertained. And so initially you can get a lot of views and a lot of likes on TikTok, but over time, once they monetize like Facebook did, your reach will significantly go down. And what Facebook did, just so you guys understand, is when you post on Facebook, even to your friends, they will show your post to about 20% of your total audience, which is why sometimes you don't see your friends posting. They will show it to 20% of your audience. And if your audience begins interacting with it, they will then show it to the rest of your audience. If nobody interacts with your post, they'll say, well, this is not interesting. We don't want to show it, because Facebook makes money by people staying on their platform. So engagement is the name of the game. If you're not getting engagement, then you're not going to get success on social media organic. So I said a lot of things there. Hopefully that made sense. If you want more on that, I can always do another video on how those algorithms come into play. Now, pros. The leads who do get in touch with you, if they're coming through organic, will have an affinity to you and will, take a little convincing. They already trust you at this point. And the leads will be cheap because, again, it's organic. Now, cons are it takes time and patience. So you have to consistently produce content. You have to be consistent. That's the name of the game. There is no guarantee that it will work. And eventually algorithms will require dollars for effective results, just like Facebook. So when you post on your law firm page, on your Facebook page, how many likes do you really get? I mean, when we post on our Empirical 360 page, my mom likes it, a couple of family friends, unless I sponsor it, and then all of you see it. So that's how Facebook works. Now it's time intensive and the content has to be quality. So you have to take your time and actually make content that is valuable to people, that they will actually be willing to interact with. So again, take those things into account when you're considering this. Now, social media ads. So this is a demand generation tactic. Again, you're using interruption-based marketing, except now you're paying to get eyeballs on your ads. And you place ads based on demographics, interests, and life events. So for instance, you can place an ad for someone who just had a baby that's 0 to 3 months old. You can place an ad for somebody who has a birthday in August. You can place an ad for somebody who's interested in retirement or who's going through retirement planning. So a couple ideas for you there. Your ads need to generate enough demand for your prospect to interact with them. And this could be them clicking the ad to go to your website. This could be them liking it. It could be them sharing it, commenting on it, all that fun stuff. Now, the cost for this is usually $1,000 a month entry level for the ad spend, very similar to Google. And the agency fees can be anywhere from $500 to $1,500 a month for this. Those are the typical fees that I've seen for just social media marketing. If they're just an agency that does that, those are the typical results that are the costs that I see. Now, the timeline to success, again, you could see ROI in a month because you're going to be paying and you're going to be getting leads. So if you get 100 ebook downloads this month and you close 2 of those people, then you're getting ROI within that month, hopefully. So timeline to success is a lot faster because you're paying to get leads, similar to the way you pay to get leads in Google. It's just you're doing it through a different medium. Now, the pros are the leads tend to be cheaper. Remember, like I talked about, you're doing ebooks, you're doing things like this on interruption-based marketing, unless you have a really hot offer, but the leads tend to be cheaper. You can go viral, or at least you can have a unicorn ad. So for instance, you can create an ad that is really, really compelling, maybe to pregnant mothers that need to get their power of attorney in order, something like that. Let's just say that it's really, really compelling, and that ad can perform really, really well, which is great because it's going to get you a lot of cheap leads and it's going to get you a lot of attention really, really fast. So you can have that viral feel. You can build your awareness. So you can show your ads to a radius of people in, let's say, a really, upscale neighborhood. Let's say that there's a community that has, 1,000 homes and they're all very wealthy and you're targeting them for estate planning or even divorce. You can show your ad to that little community over and over and over again. So when they think divorce, they think of you. So that's a tactic, awareness. You can build more detailed ads. So Google, you have a very limited space to where you can write. On Facebook, you can put a picture, you can put a ton of text, you can put videos, you can do all kinds of stuff to get your message across. So you have a little bit more room to work with as far as creating a detailed ad. And the last thing is you can build a relationship with your audience. So over time, they're going to get to know you. They're going to see you over and over and over again. And by the time they work with you, they feel like you're a friend. So that is a big advantage. Now, the cons are leads tend to require more follow-up or nurturing. Kind of like we talked about in the beginning, there's that trade-off. You're getting cheap leads, but you may need to nurture them more. The audience can burn out. So if you're in a really small area, and let's just say that your audience size is like 20,000 people, if you use the same ad over and over and over again, they get bored of it and they want to see something new. And so you have to consistently refresh your ads or your audience burns out. It's harder to scale because of that reason. So unless you're nationwide, if you have a very finite audience, it's harder to scale up because as you scale up, typically your costs will spike because Facebook's going to spend your money, but you're not getting as many leads from it. That's a usual dynamic in Facebook. Like tomorrow, if I double my Facebook budget, I'll spend double the money. I probably won't get double the leads. That's just how Facebook works. You have to incrementally increase and you have to test new copy all the time. And it requires more creative work. So again, you have to refresh ads. If you're scaling, you have to really refresh ads. And so you have to be creative with your ads. You have to come up with compelling things, shocking videos, all kinds of stuff to get people's attention because attention is very, very hard to keep these days. So your ads have to consistently be good at getting that attention. So this next one I'm going to talk about is BNI, and BNI meetings are great. And this is how a lot of people or a lot of the education communities out there suggest to get your first clients. And there's nothing wrong with this, especially if you don't have enough money to start doing marketing. But the problem with BNI meetings is that they are hard to scale. They cost your time, which is in the beginning, it's not as valuable because you have time and you don't have money. But as you start building cash flow and as you start building your firm, your time becomes more and more valuable. So how it works is you attend BNI meetings and you ask family and friends for referrals. The timeline to success for this is weeks to months. So you can start getting, close relationships to convert. Maybe they're doing you a favor, however it works. But again, if you're just relying on this, it's very hard to get that consistent flow coming through. And so the pros are, your closing rate will be very high with close relationships and referrals. The cons are it's time intensive. It is not scalable. So you are not going to build fast with this method, and you may not build up to the lengths that you want to build to because it's not as reliable as most other sources. Eventually, your referrals will begin to dry up on you. You'll go through your personal network and you might not be able to get any more people outside that network to come into your ecosystem. It's hard to turn away business. And I know this sounds like a weird con, but let's say that you really don't want to work with somebody, but you don't have the luxury of turning away money. You might take on business that you otherwise wouldn't, and that you don't really want to take it on, like those nightmare clients that can suck the life out of you. And it's hard to hire based on just this. So if you're relying only on you going out there and making relationships and only on your friends coming in and buying from you, you don't know when your next piece of business is going to come through the door. And as a result, this is not a consistent way to get business. And so you can't hire because you just never know when you're going to have a downturn. It's feast and famine with this method. So I don't have problems as a way to start off. If you have money though, in my opinion, you should always start marketing. It's going to get you more reps in sales. It's going to get you consistency, and it's going to get you the scalability that you're probably looking for. Now, the last one is listing services, and these are directories like Avo and Justia, and they work because these sites have high amounts of traffic, and you're going to get organic exposure by listing your profile on these sites. Now, the nice thing about these is the cost to actually list a free profile is free. So I highly recommend that you go through all of these and you create a free profile. The only thing is a lot of them do have sponsored versions where you can pay, and again, it's just more exposure. But I would say that this is a easy layup similar to Google Business Profile. Now, the timeline to success for these is months to years unless you sponsor them. So you don't really know how long it's going to take. It just depends on where your profile falls when someone searches for you. And I'm assuming that these have their own methods for organically ranking the users. So those are all things that you could take into account. Now, the pros are you get free leads and exposure to your firm. So you're getting links from these big sites back to your website, which is only going to help you. And there are many ways or many of these that you can list on. So I believe there's at least 20 big ones that you can list on that is going to get your profile exposure, going to get your firm exposure. So definitely worth doing. Now, the cons are they're not scalable unless you're sponsoring them because you don't know how many leads you're going to get, and it's hard to get them to show more and more unless you're sponsoring your profile. The lead quality is hard to control, so you don't really know how people arrived at these sites to find you. Was it a targeted search where they're looking for a divorce attorney, or were they reading a blog on how to do divorce on the cheap? So you don't really know, and so as a result, the quality is a little bit hard to control. And the paid versions tend to have long-term contracts, so I've heard that they're a year or 2 years long, and so that would be the biggest con. So that is the last acquisition channel that I recommend for firms. Now, again, I want to just circle back to some key things. Is there's no magic system. All of these things work. There is a way to get all of them to work. If they're not working, it's either because you didn't approach it with the right expectations, the execution on the channel was poor, or the follow-up required was not communicated to you, and as a result, you didn't follow up with the leads the way they should be followed up with, and so the channel failed. But again, I believe every single channel has its place. It just is where it is all dependent on where you are at in your firm's journey. And so just as a side note, what we tend to focus on for our clients is the lower hanging fruit, the bottom of funnel type marketing that is going to pay you fast. And then, we invest in the firm long-term by doing SEO, things like that. So that's our approach. This is what we found, in marketing, and we've been doing this for a lot of years. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions about any channel individually, feel free to drop a comment or message me directly. I thank you for your time, and sorry about the outage. There was an outage in the middle of my live webinar. If you were on here live, this is the recording, and I appreciate you watching it. Thanks.